The bargain cruise can become the expensive mistake. The brochure shows glassy water, elegant dinners, and a price that feels almost too good. Then you board, and the hidden bill appears. Not always in money. Sometimes it is lost time, bad sleep, crowded ports, language confusion, canceled stops, or a cabin that vibrates all night while you wonder why you paid for luxury. After more than 130 cruises, one lesson becomes brutally clear. Some sailings are not bad for everyone, but they are wrong for many travelers who book them for the wrong reasons. The trap is simple. The cruise looks beautiful before purchase, but the value collapses once the small print becomes your daily life. That is the trap. And 7 types are the ones I would treat with extreme caution before paying a deposit. A cruise fare is not the full cost of a cruise. The real price is what you receive per day, how much freedom you lose, how predictable the experience is, and whether the ship actually delivers what it sold you. A low fare can still be poor value. A high fare can still be worth it. The problem starts when the promise and the reality are miles apart. That is where travelers get caught. Cruise marketing sells sunset decks, rare ports, private balconies, and effortless travel. But the painful costs hide inside logistics, crowds, design flaws, and expectations. Choose the wrong type of cruise, and the mistake follows you every morning, every meal, and every night. So which cruises deserve the closest inspection before you book? The first is the European River Cruise. Many travelers love them. For the right person, they can be smooth, comfortable, and easy. But if you enjoy ocean cruising, the value equation can feel harsh. River cruises often cost more per day while giving you smaller ships, tighter cabins, fewer facilities, modest entertainment, and a schedule that can feel like a guided coach tour on water. That changes the value. There is also the repetition problem. Routes on rivers such as the Rhine and Danube can start to feel extremely similar. The same landmark stops return. Cathedral visits and organized walking tours can dominate the rhythm. For some travelers, that is perfect. For others, it becomes tiring fast. Then nature enters the contract. Water levels can be too high or too low, and either problem can break the planned route. When that happens, the river cruise can turn into ship swaps, altered plans, or long bus rides between sites. The weather can quietly change the product. The view can vanish too. River ships often dock beside each other, pressed window to window. That balcony or river view cabin you imagined can become a direct view into another passenger's room. That is not a small detail when the cabin category costs more. Still, these cruises can work well if you want everything arranged, gentle walking tours, small passenger numbers, no ocean motion, and Europe without constant hotel changes. But if you are buying freedom, space, and variety, the river may charge more than it gives. The second cruise to question is the sailing ship cruise. The fantasy is powerful. White sails, a smaller vessel, a romantic, adventurous way to travel. But the experience may not match the image, especially at premium prices. On Windstar Windsurf, the sails were impressive to watch, but they did not transform the trip. The ship still used power to keep the schedule and meet the itinerary. The sails could help with speed, reduce fuel use, or create atmosphere, but they were not the heart of the journey. That matters. With stabilizers and engine power, the ride can feel closer to a regular small cruise ship than a true sailing adventure. Yet the fare can be high, while the ship has fewer venues, less entertainment, fewer dining options, and smaller cabins. The itinerary promise also needs caution. Sailing ships may dock closer to town than large vessels stuck in industrial ports. That sounds valuable. But once ashore, the town may still be full of tourists from land tours and other cruise ships. The exclusive feeling can disappear at the gangway. For some people, it is still worth it. A roughly 300-passenger ship, a water sports marina at the stern, fewer sea days, and a destination-heavy schedule can be perfect. But if you are paying extra for real sailing, ask how much actual sailing you will get. The third cruise type sounds harmless until you are on board. It is the foreign language cruise line. These can be fascinating, and sometimes they offer routes others do not. But the risk is uncertainty. Your experience may depend heavily on how many passengers share your language on that sailing. Trips on lines such as Hapag-Lloyd, including expedition and classic voyages, Ponant, Costa, and Croisière Europe, can vary widely. On some sailings, there may be only 2 other English-speaking guests. On others, there may be a group of around 20. That difference changes the social life, the service flow, and the information you receive. The fatigue is real. A cruise is supposed to feel easy, but when announcements, lectures, humor, menus, and casual conversations require extra effort, the trip can become mentally draining. Cruise lines may provide translation, but the quality depends on numbers and logistics. On expedition trips, lectures may be translated live into an earpiece. Sometimes programs split by language. Sometimes the local language version clearly contains more detail than the translated version. That can create frustration, especially when safety, wildlife, timing, or shore plans are involved.
Culture also travels with the ship. Dining pace, queuing habits, smoking norms, dress codes, all of these also shift,
and social behavior usually reflect the main passenger base. That is not wrong. It is simply the product being sold. For confident, independent travelers, this can be rewarding. If you speak the language, want immersion, or need a rare itinerary, it can be a smart choice. A Ponant, sailing to the Ross Sea ice shelf in Antarctica, for example, can make sense because few lines hold the permits and experience for that region. But if comfort depends on easy communication, the cheapest cabin may not be the true bargain. The 4th cruise type is the giant megaship resort cruise. These ships are engineering marvels. They can offer huge dining choice, many bars, water parks, big theater productions,
thrill rides, kids clubs, and endless programmed activity.
For families, friend groups, and multi-generational trips, they can solve a major problem. Everyone can find something to do on one floating resort. But ports pay the price. Megaships are too large for many destinations. They need ports with the infrastructure to handle the vessel and the crowd. That often means the same familiar stops appear again and again. The itinerary becomes repetitive, and private islands or beach clubs increasingly fill the schedule. The ship becomes the destination. If that is what you want, it may be perfect. But if the destination is the reason you cruise, it can feel like paying for a mall that happens to move. The atmosphere is another cost. Large resort ships can be louder, busier, more frantic, and more party-driven. They often carry more children and families, which can be great if that is your goal. But if you want calm decks, quiet evenings, and unusual ports, the scale works against you. The purchase question is simple. Are you buying a cruise ship, or are you buying the places it can reach? The 5th type is any large or mid-sized cruise with too many tender ports. Tendering means the ship anchors offshore, and passengers ride smaller boats between ship and land. On paper, this can look exciting. Tender ports can include less visited Greek islands, South Pacific stops, French Polynesian islands, smaller Mediterranean towns, remote Caribbean locations, and parts of Scotland. Then the weather decides. Wind and swell can cancel tender operations completely. On one round Scotland sailing with Windstar, most ports were lost because tendering became impossible. The itinerary looked rich before departure. The sea removed the value. Even when tenders run, time leaks away. On a larger ship, getting ashore can take hours. A recent sailing on Holland America Oosterdam, with about 1,900 passengers, showed the problem clearly. Guests in suites or cruise line excursions may receive priority, while independent travelers wait for a tender slot. That delay changes everything. If the ship docks, you can usually leave soon after clearance. If it tenders, your independent tour becomes harder to time and riskier to book. The smaller the ship, the better tendering tends to work. That is why French Polynesia can function well on vessels such as Paul Gauguin or Windstar. But when a big ship relies on small boats, the itinerary is only a promise until the sea agrees. The 6th warning is not an itinerary. It is the cabin itself. A beautiful route cannot save a cruise if your room is noisy. Vibration, slamming doors, thin walls, Poor soundproofing and bad design can destroy sleep. Once the ship sails, you cannot return the cabin like a bad hotel room. Bad sleep is expensive. Research is protection. Some ships or cabin categories develop reputations. Oceania Vista raised enough soundproofing concerns to make the Allura class worth caution, while other Oceania classes may be better. Seabourn Ovation and Encore have had regular veranda cabin sound issues.
Certain grades on the Silversea Nova class also deserve careful checking. The cabin location matters as much as the ship.
The safest choices are usually surrounded by other cabins, away from lounges, galleys, pool decks, elevators, crew access doors, and late-night venues. If that type of cabin is unavailable, the better deal may be no deal. A perfect example is a circumnavigation of Australia on Holland America. The itinerary may be exactly right, but if only cabins under the pool deck or near noisy areas remain, the risk can outweigh the opportunity. Because one bad cabin does not ruin one night, it can ruin the entire cruise. The seventh type is the ultra-luxury hotel-branded yacht. Names such as Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, and Orient Express carry enormous power. They suggest elite service, refined design, and an experience above normal cruising. But the prices are extreme, so the delivery must be exceptional. That is the question. These brands are still betting into cruise operations. Reviews have been mixed, and the business structures are not always as simple as the famous names imply. The hotel name appears to be franchised rather than operated as a direct hotel group cruise product. Financial stability matters too. Ritz-Carlton Yachts has reportedly faced low occupancy, mounting losses, and multiple financial reorganizations, including recent reports in financial papers. At these fairs, being an early adopter carries real risk. If money is no concern and you want a small, upscale yacht experience, these lines may be tempting. But proven luxury operators such as Regent, Silversea, Seabourn, Crystal, Explora Journeys, and established scenic yachts offer a clearer track record. And when the price is that high, hope is not enough. The lesson is not that these cruises are bad. The lesson is that each one hides a different cost. River cruises can cost more while offering less freedom. Sailing ships may sell a fantasy powered mostly by engines. Foreign language lines can make communication feel like work. Mega ships can trade ports for spectacle. Tender-heavy routes can lose days to weather and waiting. Noisy cabins can ruin every night. Hotel-branded yachts can charge premium prices before proving themselves. The smart traveler does not ask, is this cruise cheap? The better question is, what am I really paying for, and what could go wrong after final payment? Because the most expensive cruise is not always the one with the highest fare. It is the one where the warning signs were visible before you booked. It is the one you regret while still on board. A bad cruise does not begin at sea. It begins with the deposit you should not have paid.